A low Earth orbit satellite system. Well, it went dark. It was a bit like the Millennium Bug without the Millennium. They failed to account for the fact that, there was a leap year. It made it go dark for 3 days. Blimey. Anyway, before I get into it, we must go in and boot the old like button. And maybe subscribe to the channel. Don't forget the little bell icon, because then you get one fuzzy thing in your pocket every time I upload another video. And I know you'll be excited about that. You've got a sports channel, you've got a Patreon, or buy us a coffee. And that'd be very much appreciated, it really would. Well, there's a bit of a sorry tale about this particular low Earth orbit satellite system. And no, I'm not talking about Starlink. No, not Elon Musk's Starlink, where there's thousands of these satellites up there cluttering up the space. I'm talking about OneWeb. And anyone who knows the Brexit will know about the OneWeb and Dominic Cummings. You see, Dominic Cummings thought it was a great idea to replace our responsibility to the EU's Galileo program, because obviously we left the European Union at that point, and the UK government didn't want no part, nothing to do with the EU. No, you see. Well, the EU's Galileo program, it was way ahead. It was, and we'd already spent around £9 billion to help fund it. But Dominic comes and says, I've got a great idea. It's going to save you a packet. It's only going to cost you £500 million. All right. So what they do, they buy this product, this company called OneWeb. I said a product, but it's a company, and it's called OneWeb. Oh dear. This was the first blunder, because the Galileo system is a GPS satellite system. OneWeb was, well, it's in the name. It's OneWeb, web, internet. It's low Earth internet system. So that was their first mistake. Now, Dominic Cummings seemed to think that they'd be able to upgrade the satellites, those tiny little satellites flying around, upgrade the satellites to be able to deal with GPS. But they're a totally different type of satellite. And GPS satellites tend to be much heavier, much bigger, more equipment, I suppose. I don't know. Well, here's what widely reported, or was at the time, that the government committed this £500 million. And basically, the OneWeb company was, they were having a bit of trouble, okay? It was in a bit of a shit state. And there was already a big investor. One was Bharti Enterprises, which was an Indian company, who was actually headed by or controlled by a billionaire geezer, and Sunil Mittal. And he was also a Brexit sympathiser as well. He thought Brexit's a great idea, which it wasn't. It never was. It was shit. Right? Unless you've invested against the pound or something stupid. So, anyway, they bought this alien company, which was in basically heading for bankruptcy. £500 million, or 20% shares in, I should say. And it wasn't the right satellite system. You know, they obviously tried to bluff their way through that one, didn't they, at the time? Now, it was broadly seen as a sort of last-ditch attempt for sort of participating in some kind of internet system, or GPS system, that wasn't the Galileo program, which was a new program by the EU. And it's the GNSS, the Global Navigation Satellite System. Now, Dominic Cummings, he was instrumental in that bid. £500 million for the wrong satellite. But, saying that, it may not be such a stupid thing after all. Since, actually it's since panned out, but we'll get to that in a minute. But the UK didn't have no low Earth orbit system either. So to have your fingers in that pie makes a lot of sense in some ways. You see, the problem with the Starlink is run by a madman called Elon Musk, who's dabbling in UK politics. So to have his own internet system other than Vibe and what have you, which obviously, if you're talking about war, what have you, outages and stuff, maybe a satellite system makes sense. Since Russia keeps like dragging anchors over underwater, deep sea cables and stuff, internet cables and power cables, etc. So that was a massive, massive mistake. But a lot has happened since, you see, a hell of a lot, and unfortunately, it keeps this one web company keeps getting into financial difficulties. It's in a bit of a state, okay? And but what makes it quite funny to me is that effectively it's European owned, not just the UK. Airbus is involved, Eutelsat is involved, and they've all got major investments in OneWeb. And OneWeb is, these satellite swarms are sort of built by OneWeb, what have you, just like the SpaceX ones, except there's less of them at the moment. But there again, it's a younger concern, and it's planning on putting several. I think they've got about 616 functioning satellites at the moment. Elon Musk Starlink's got thousands. I think it's about 9,000 satellites. He's planned to put about 40,000 up there. The thing about these low Earth satellites, though, is that they are continuously falling to Earth. The orbit is concentric, it's reducing. Excuse me. It's constantly reducing. Because it's low Earth, the gravity obviously affects the orbit. And it's pulling it down. And eventually it will enter the Earth's atmosphere and burn up. Or end up with space debris. Like a piece of space debris fell on a village somewhere, I can't remember where also. I think it was in India. So it's I think it's quite a good idea in some ways, but otherwise it's just like it makes a mockery of Brexit. We started out buying 20% shares in this company, and to get away from the EU, and then it's got major shareholdings in the EU, and Eutelsat is the company that actually managed to save or sort out the problems regarding the fact they failed to account for the leap year. It was Eutelsat, which is a French, I think it's a French or part French-owned company. It just makes a mockery of everything, doesn't it? It really does. The one where there's actually several of these internet low Earth orbit internet satellite constellations. China's currently in the process of putting that, launching theirs. I imagine it's going to be bigger and better than everybody else's. To be fair, I won't be a bit surprised. And so SpaceX and obviously Starlink, but obviously they're the most prominent now, because at the end of the day, he's got the means to launch the bloody satellites himself as Elon Musk, so it makes a lot of sense. Now, OneWeb had some difficulty a few years back because of the war in Ukraine. All of a sudden, okay, Russia was launching our satellites for OneWeb, and all of a sudden that had to change. So then India was launching the satellites for OneWeb. But they keep getting bailed out. By European concerns, not British concerns. So now we've become this minor shareholder in this company, which happens to be really a European company. That is the irony behind it. It makes dear me. It makes a mockery of absolutely everything, doesn't it? It really does. So it was founded, I think it was back in 2012, and it was called Worldview. And then OneWeb started. It began the process of building its constellation back in 2020, and it's been a rough ride for them. It really has. They declared bankruptcy back in March 2020, and well, they blamed the COVID pandemic and what have you. It's usual stuff. It wouldn't have helped. Obviously, the war in Ukraine has really hurt them. They had basically they went into bankruptcy or verge of bankruptcy, or they declared it actually, and they got bailed out. Started looking good, and then all of a sudden we had this war in Ukraine that banged them right back down again. But it's it's just I don't know, it just makes me laugh. It does. It's just Brexit has just been a complete joke from day one. It really has, and there's been no benefits of it unless you bet against the pound. It's a bit crazy. What say you? Do you think it's a bit of a joke, or do you think that was a wise move? I think we look like idiots. Quite frankly, we don't know what we're doing. We really don't. Anyway, please click the old like button and maybe subscribe to the channel. And if you've got a sport channel, do it on Patreon or Bars Coffee. Links are down below. But when the hell are we gonna get our act together? We make one stupid mistake after another, don't we? We're dumb. We really are dumb.